Hello and welcome once again to the Cup Experience Show, covering all the details of the 36th America's Cup. This is show number 10 on this fourth day of the Prada Cup Challengers Selection Series Finals to determine which team, the Italians or the Brits, will go on to face the New Zealanders in the America's Cup match next month. And right now, the Italians are 5-1 up over the Brits. Hi, I'm Tucker Thompson here in the United States, and I'm joined by my friend Jack Griffin of CupExperience.com, who is live late at night with us in Switzerland. And Jack, Ben Ainsley and Ineos Team UK have to win at least one race tonight to stay in this competition and have a chance.
Yep, first to seven, Luna Rossa could close it out tonight, but if they don't, we're going to have two races every day until somebody has 7 points, or if there's a delay, either it could be COVID, it could be too much wind, too little wind. If there's any delay that takes us all the way to Wednesday, on Wednesday at the end of the day, whoever's ahead is the winner.
Well, we'll see who can do it. But first, let's thank our sponsors with the Sponsors 60 seconds to appreciate those who support the Cup Experience. Beginning with Mount Gay Rum, the official sailor's rum. Find Mount Gay at drizzly.com or order your own cocktail set from the Cocktail Courier link below. And send us your AC watch party photos with Mount Gay Rum. We want to put photos of you guys in our shows. Thank you to C-Deck Adhesive Foam Decking, which will literally transform the deck of your boat. It did for mine, and it did, of course, for American Magic, among many others as well. Thanks to AkzoNobel and All Grip Fast Finishes. The sport's fastest yachts are finished with the All Grip Next Generation Top Coat HDT. Thank you to Rabba and Birking Silver and their American Magic collection, which is now a collector's edition. There are American Magic-themed cocktail tumblers, bottle coasters, and serving trays, and much more. Or you can customize them with whatever you want to put on the silver. You can ask Jack for more info or order them at americanmagic.cupexperience.com. And then finally, thanks to PELLINI Coffee, the official coffee supplier of New York Yacht Club American Magic, with its PELLINI Top 100% Arabica Espresso. PELLINI Coffee, keeping sailors energized. You can find it online at Amazon.com. Thanks to all of our sponsors of the Cup Experience. And now, as we mentioned at the top of our show, it's Ineos Team UK that has to win tonight in order to stay in the Prada Cup Challenger Finals. And yesterday they did just that, an important win, but it wasn't easy. Here's a look.
Day 3 of the Prada Cup Final. Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli were 4-0 up. Time was running out for Ineos Team UK to start putting points on the board. For the dockout, COVID restrictions meant it was quiet ashore. The America's Cup village was closed, but the support was in force on the water. After 5 days of no sailing, the pressure was building, and so was the sea breeze. Sparks flew at the start as both teams fought for the right-hand end of the line, and while Ineos got the better position, the jury determined that they got too close to Luna Rossa and dealt the British a penalty, which doubled when the pair came back together after Ineos were found to have gained from their position. Clearing their penalty proved difficult, and by the time they had, Luna Rossa was ahead, leading through the first gate by 15 seconds. By gate 2 their lead was 20 seconds, and from there the margin simply grew, and saw Luna Rossa take their 5th victory by 1 minute and 20 seconds.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic race, but obviously Jimmy did most of the job on that time on distance, and he did very well. As I said, textbook for me.
Yeah, well, we just got to keep plugging away. I mean, it's tough. We're obviously struggling in terms of straight line performance, so we've got to push it hard to try and make something happen.
The second race of the day saw a return to the close battle, but this time the lineup at the start was reversed. Despite some aggressive moves by Luna Rossa, Ineos led off the start and headed for the left-hand side of the course. Luna Rossa tacked off early. Ineos took it all the way to the boundary. By the time they came back together, Ineos were ahead. Around the first gate they led by 8 seconds, at gate 2, 21. At gate 4 the British were 32 seconds ahead, but the match wasn't over. Luna Rossa had stormed up the last upwind leg and were just 9 seconds behind, but Ineos held their nerve, defended well and took their first win of the Prada Cup final.
Well, yeah, we're a bit happier with a win than been on the wrong side of it last few days of racing. So guys did a great job, just, They're not going to give up, these boys. Going to keep fighting all the way. So get one back is what we needed.
Yeah, it was a great race. I thought the boys did a great job. Really nice manoeuvres. Pretty steady, you know, the pressure in the end. But yeah, great race. Full credit to Ineos for getting that one.
Sir Ben Ainsley's team had bought themselves some time, but Luna Rossa finished the day with 5 wins. One more day of racing and 2 more Italian victories could see the Prada Cup won. The pressure was still on.
I think what Matt Sheehan means is the pressure is still on Ineos Team UK, much more than the Italians, Jack. The score is 5-1. The Italians only need to win 2. And, of course, the Brits need to win 6 in order to take the championship. And there's a lot of controversy, Jack, over that pre-start yesterday, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Luna Rossa was able to squeeze Ineos out at the right-hand end of the line, and then both boats were OCS over early. There was a lot of confusion that came from that.
Well, here's what Ben Ainsley had to say about it yesterday.
Well, the winds were quite light, and we knew we were going to have a lot on to beat Luna Rossa in a straight line race. There was quite a lot more breeze on the right-hand side of the course. They were the port entry boat, so they really had control of the time turning back to that start. And so we wanted to try and push them off and get in and get our right-hand side. So we pushed hard for it, just a little bit too hard. It was close, but you know, I think we had to take that risk to get in there and give ourselves a chance. And as you saw, the first cross we came back together, we were ever so slightly ahead, but we picked up a second penalty. Yeah, I think it's part of racing, isn't it? You take those decisions at the time. I think, you know, in the lighter stuff, we've got to push hard. You know, I'm not the kind of person, and we're not the kind of team that are just going to sit there and not just let someone sail away from us. We're going to get stuck in, and if that means taking some risks, yeah, I'd rather race that way than just sit there and let someone sail away from you.
I like it. You heard how Ben Ainsley approaches the game. He's not going to roll over and just let you take a race off of him. And I kind of admire the way he approached that pre-start. I don't mind that he got the penalty because he was pushing it. He was fighting for the right. He got the right. Now, granted, he didn't get the race in the end, but I'd much rather see him fight for it like that than simply get beaten as they have been in some of these other races. And that leads us to our next segment. It's a fan favorite now, the Ask Jack segment, sponsored by Seahorse Magazine. So next, Jack will give us a detailed look at that pre-start and particularly how the penalties worked out.
Well, there have been a lot of questions about the penalties that Ineos Team UK picked up in race 5 of the Challenger Selection Series. Let's watch it first on virtual eye. Both boats coming in above the lay line to the starting line. Luna Rossa slows down, squeezes out Ineos Team UK. Ineos Team UK got caught for barging. It's actually a windward leeward penalty there right at the starting line when Luna Rossa was able to squeeze them out. Both boats were OCS on the course side over the line early. They got penalties that were ruled as being offsetting. Now, let's go on board Ineos Team UK and listen to what they're saying.
Line there.
Okay. Coming up, main on.
Coming up. Coming up here.
Yep.
Killing 3. Killing 4. Killing 3. Killing 4. Killing 3.
Up hard.
Main on.
Killing
Stand
2.
by, board down, board down.
Board's going down. He follows. We've got a penalty.
Fine. Okay.
Penalty, GBR.
Okay, building and then tacking.
Copy.
Yeah.
Pressure here.
20 seconds. Penalty's gone. He's matching angle. He's now slowly coming up. Come up a
Working
couple
up
here.
a touch.
Coming up.
Up a couple. Yeah, that's fine. No
This
problem
is the
there.
umpires. This is the umpires. GBR gained an advantage. GBR has to get 50 metres behind Italy.
He's given us another penalty. Let's take it with attack, I think. Ben back to the
Yeah,
boundary.
copy. Stand by.
Crossing.
My pitch. Okay, normal build, and we'll reassess the
Here we
penalty.
go. 27s.
Penalty's still on us here. He tacks.
Coming on.
Yeah, umpires, you can't just keep penalising us because we've got the wrong side. Come on, we're behind them, Richard. What do you want, mate?
GBR, you have 10 metres to drop.
Pressure's
Yeah, they're on the wrong side, Richard. Come on, mate.
coming on. Nice.
Boundary 22 away.
Nice.
Can't give us 2 penalties because they're going the wrong way.
Good numbers here. Pressure building in 3.
Richard, this is ridiculous.
Boundary tack,
Stand
30
by.
seconds.
Crossing.
2, 1, board down.
Here we have the Racing Rules for Sailing America's Cup Edition, and the slow and go penalties are a big difference between the normal racing rules of sailing. The big difference from the regular racing rules of sailing is how you can tell if you're keeping clear of another boat. Each boat has this red diamond around it, and if you're the keep clear boat and your red diamond touches the other boat's red diamond, you have not been keeping clear. Now, we can't see that, and the sailors can't see it except on the displays they have on board, but I can tell you Richard Slater and the team of umpires in the umpire booth can see that. That's how they judge the penalty against Ineos Team UK for barging at the start in that race.
What I want to ask you, Jack, is, first of all, excellent segment. And I love the audio on board, particularly Ben Ainsley arguing with the umpire. You know, in what other sport have you ever seen the competitors like Jimmy Spithill and Ben Ainsley negotiating and having a discussion or a disagreement with the umpire who's able to talk back to them and the audience is looped into the whole thing? It's hysterical.
Yeah, I tell you, that's absolutely great. You know, the onboard audio is one of the really, really good parts of this, the broadcast, and the fact that you can choose which boat you're going to listen in on. I love that stuff. The barging penalty, that issue was, you know, they got an advantage by barging. That's why they got the second penalty, which they took so long to burn off, and which caused them such frustration because they weren't getting the 50 meters behind that they needed to do. But there was another thing that was really interesting there, and that was both boats being OCS, both boats being over the starting line early and the penalties being offset. Now, the way that works is if, let's say that we both go over the line early. Let's say you go over the line 15 seconds early and I go over 5 seconds early. We're both OCS, but you're 10 seconds ahead of me. So if they just wipe out the 2 penalties, you're still 10 seconds ahead of me. So what do? They let me catch up to you. They want both boats to be even when the penalties are turned off after 2 boats are OCS. A little bit complicated, but that's the way it works.
Well, it worked out, and it was entertaining to see. And, you know, if there's one thing that these races have shown us, particularly yesterday, is how important it is to win the start. And the start. Now, Jimmy Spithill and the Italians are doing it better than everyone else, to be fair. And throughout all these races, I've personally started to notice a very clear pattern on how they're winning these starts. So in this next segment, we'll take a look at just what they are doing and particularly how to beat them. So far in this event, we've learned that the racing is close, the boat speeds are similar, and on these short courses with boundaries, the passing lanes are small. This puts a premium on starting well, which is crucial in match racing, and when it comes to winning starts, Jimmy Spithill is arguably the best. He and Checco Bruni are almost unbeaten in these pre-starts. If Ben Ainsley and Ineos Team UK want a shot at beating the Italians and going on to the Cup, they have to beat Spithill at his own game. They have to win or at least get an even start that will put them in a position to outsail Luna Rossa on the course. Now, to be fair, I have absolutely no idea how difficult it really is to maneuver an AC-75, and I'm sure it's pretty hard. But these are the best sailors in the world after all, and this is the America's Cup. So consistently putting the boat in the right position time after time is a prerequisite. The Italians are doing it, and Ben Ainsley and the Brits should be able to do it as well. The good news is it is possible to beat Spithill and Bruni at their own game in the start, and here I'll show you how. I'm actually amazed that no one seems to have discussed what they're doing earlier. It's actually pretty simple. In fact, we explained this 3 weeks ago in our show number 6 when discussing what Dean Barker needed to do to outstart the Italians in the semifinals. Spithill, and respectfully by Spithill I also mean Bruni, seems to have the same approach to every single start. That's leading back in early, which in these AC-75s seems to be the most powerful. So they do it in almost every single start. Let's take a look at how. We begin with them entering on port at 2 minutes 10 seconds, which is the strongest entry because it automatically puts them in the leading position. So here they dip down below the line. Now, if they're entering from starboard, they simply jibe or tack first to lead back to the line. So they'll bear off into the starting box until they're directly to leeward of the right-hand end of the starting mark. Then they'll head up and go on the wind. Here it comes. Now, at this point, regardless of what their opponent is doing, they're going to head towards the right-hand boundary, going high with speed. And when they get to the boundary, they're going to bear off along it, going downwind, paralleling it until roughly a minute 10 to a minute 5, and that's when they'll jibe around on starboard. So here we are, a minute 25 to go. 10 seconds to the jibe, and here comes their typical bear away. Ainsley somewhere off to the left in this start. Coming up on 110, they'll set up for the jibe. Bang. There it is. Now, at somewhere between 50 and 45 seconds, they're going to luff up roughly 4 lengths above the ley line for the starboard end of the line and slow down and wait for the opponent. There's an option at a port starboard, which doesn't result in a penalty. Now, Ainsley sees there early. He's going to set up behind. And that's what their opponents typically do. Here it comes, 50 seconds, right on time, and he's above starboard tack ley line, slowing down. This is where time on distance is key. They always lead back early with between 15 to 20 seconds to kill to the line. That's usually too early for their opponent, who ends up behind and to windward, working on their own time and distance. Jimmy simply lines his mast up with your bow and reels you in, matching you. If you accelerate, so does he. If you slow down, he does too, until you're either hooked or late. But in this case, Ben is late, and he goes down for a failed hook that leaves him a little bit behind, with the Italians ending up tight to leeward. Ben working on trying to gain a little bit of windward gauge there. That's not going to work as the clock ticks down. Now, to be fair, Ben actually gets a little bit of a start out of this by gaining speed. He'll end up tight to windward. The bad news is the Italians eventually burn him off, and they win the first cross and the race in this case. So to win these starts, you have to beat them at their own game. You have to lead back first and earlier, and then force them to make a choice whether to lead back even earlier than you and force being early to the line, or get hooked above you. Here, Ben Ainsley shows us exactly how to do it right. So you've got to lead in first and force them to either go back too early or get hooked above you. This is the second race yesterday, and Ainsley goes into the starting box mirroring what Spithill and Bruni normally do. He's a bit deeper than normal, but now he gets below the windward end of the line and starts the luff up. Now, Jimmy's typical counter move is to jibe in behind and head for your transom. Now remember, the Italians normally parallel down the starboard boundary and jibe at about 110. So we've got 20 seconds to that. And remember, Ainsley does the correct thing, countering by doing exactly what the Italians normally do. Approaching boundary, he'll head down and parallel. At 110, look for the jibe. And there it is. Now, at about 50 seconds, he'll set up above the starboard ley line, which is typically what Jimmy would normally do. Here he luffs up, heads towards the start. That's the ley line to the left. Coming up on 50 seconds, 4 or 5 lengths above it, and he'll start to hit the brakes. Now, the Italians' typical response in this situation is to tack around and then try to reach over their opponent's bow and reestablish a lead position. Here it comes. But here, Ben again mirrors Jimmy's normal move, and he lines his mast up with Jimmy's bow to set up the hook, slowing down. Now, interestingly, Jimmy shows the counter move to this, which is to get the bows going in opposite directions and push while taking a big luff up to establish gauge to windward. Now, on an even course or a right-favored course, this would win the start. But in this case, the first shift was left. So Ineos gets it. They start tight to leeward. They start to leeward. The Italians get gauge to windward, but the shift goes left, and Ineos Team UK, in this case, wins their first race of the series. And here, Jimmy gives us another look at the counter move to his lead-in pre-start approach, which is to immediately initiate the push from behind and then go for the hook so the opponent burns up the extra 15 or 20 seconds and gets to the line too early, while Jimmy fishtails to windward and takes weather gauge. Now, in this start, you can see Jimmy going for his typical, and Checco going for their typical jibe between 110 and 105 at the starboard boundary of the start. Here it comes. But in this case, Dean Barker approaches on port. which is fine. He's still going to set up for the lead position here and steal it from Spithill. Here it comes. Now, that's exactly where he wants to be at roughly the exact time. The problem here is Barker doesn't slow down enough to keep Luna Rosa's bow hooked with his mast. And as a result, Jimmy starts to push. And here it comes. One thing that Jimmy tries to do when he pushes is get the bows going in opposite directions. So Dean goes down. Jimmy's going to take a big dig up. So there's the bows going in opposite directions. And boom, he's got weather gauge. He'll just simply wind up to full speed. And Dean has run out of time. He's going to have to go down the line towards the pin. This gives the right to the Italians in a right-hand must-win situation. The Italians win the start. And unfortunately for Dean Barker, the race. One thing Spithill does really well is slow the boat down so that your bow stays even with his mast and he can match your every move and end up starting tight to leeward. And if Dean had done that, he would have gotten a good start out of that. So the key there is control, being able to slow the boat down, particularly in the last 30 seconds, because if you have the opponent overlap, he's going to start to run out of options. Very strong. So the lessons here are, number one, lead in. That is the most powerful thing to do in these boats. And more often than not, you're either going to start ahead of your competition by having better time on distance, or you'll hook them and shut them out, or at the very worst, you'll bear off and start tight to leeward. The second option, or the counter, is to immediately push if your opponent chooses to lead in, and that's what we see working with Jimmy Spithill. If he gets let in, he pushes immediately and then fishtails and gauges off to at least get a safe start to windward. So as long as your time on distance is good, the moves and the counter moves that we've shown you here are going to win more starts or at least get you off the line even, so you've got a fighting chance in the race. So there we go, Jack. What do you think? Are you ready to take on Spithill and Bruni?
On a simulator, maybe. I don't think I could handle an AC-75, but with that kind of advice, yeah, let's go for it. I mean, it really is incredible to see how this is turning into real match racing in the pre-starts in these boats. Really fantastic racing.
I think you're absolutely right. And what we've seen evolve in this competition is, and you'd expect this in a brand new class where they haven't had much training to race against each other, the team started out a little bit unengaged and they're getting closer and closer. Now, Spithill and Bruni are not afraid to mix it up, slow the boat speed down, get close to their opponent. And until now, most of their opponents have stayed away, usually high, and then they come in late on their timing or get shut out. Or get forced to tack away. But I think the key is the only way you're going to beat Jimmy is you've got to throw it to him. You've got to take the race to him and not be afraid to mix it up. And that's exactly what Ben Ainsley did yesterday. He needs to do more of that. Here's the schedule for today. 2 more races on tap. And as Jack mentioned at the top of the show, it's going to be 2 races every single day until the 24th of February, which actually isn't even on this schedule. It's on the next page. But anyway, 2 more tonight. And of course, Ineos Team UK has to win 1 at least. Jack, what's the weather?
Hey, a little bit lighter than yesterday, but looking pretty gusty with a northeasterly 9 to 16 knots at the low end. That's good news for Luna Rosa. As the wind picks up, that'll be good news for Ineos. Could be 1-1 in the racing today.
What course do you think they're going to choose based on that?
Well, I guess if I'm Ian Murray, I'm looking at course A with that. We'll see what Ian chooses, but that would be my pick.
Okay, so we'll see if that's what's going to happen. Of course, you can watch it live on NBC Sports Gold online, or you can see the tape delay on NBC Sportsnet on television here in the U.S. And of course, remember the Ask Jack section, because we want to hear from you and answer more of your questions in our show. So that's it for us. The 4th day of the Prada Cup Challenger Selection Series Finals continues tonight. I know you're excited to see it, and we are too. Once again, we hope you enjoy the Cup experience. We'd like to thank our sponsors and thank you for joining us. And be sure to tell all your friends we're going to do a show every night, broadcasting by 8 p.m. on every race day of the 36th America's Cup. We want to hear from you. If you want to ask us questions or join our mailing list, you can email tuckertlive@gmail.com. Also, send us photos of you guys enjoying Mount Gay rum or PELLINI coffee, and we'll put you in the show. Like, follow, subscribe, Facebook and YouTube. Twitter is Tucker T Live and Tucker Thompson 1 on Instagram, or visit Jack's website, cupexperience.com, to sign up for his America's Cup newsletter. And remember to click on Ask Jack if you have questions. We want to answer them here in the show. So that's it, another show. Jack, it's going to be another exciting race. And listen, for the sake of competition, and if you're a British fan, good luck to Ineos Team UK. We want to see more good starts and more good races. For Jack Griffin in Switzerland and our producer-director Mason Sheen, I'm Tucker Thompson. Thanks for watching another Cup Experience.